So by now, everybody probably knows that there has been a bit of a gasoline crisis. It seems that what was the name of the pipeline again?
The Colonial Pipeline.
Colonial Pipeline, which I discovered, actually, me and my husband discovered that they are located here in Alpharetta, Georgia. Seems like there was some ransomware hack. Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Right, so it messed up the computers.
Yeah, there was a cyber attack.
So they ended up having to shut things down. And in typical American form, people ran out to go and get gasoline because they thought they were not going to have gas to go to all the various different places that they go to. So, of course, that caused a crisis, a fuel crisis. It was the toilet paper thing all over again. So, what do you think about all of that, Age?
Well, over the past year, I have learned that we Americans are a selfish, greedy lot of people. We feel like we have to have abundant amounts of everything.
Wow.
And when there's even the slightest inkling that there might be a reduction in our supply, we go out and we hoard and we trample over people and try to get all the stuff.
Exactly. I'm still looking for Lysol. I have not seen Lysol in over a year, folks. So if anybody knows where I can get some, hit me up. You can email me, dzstories@yahoo.com. All right,
anyway, I mean, if you told us, Americans, that there was going to be a shortage of orange socks, some of us would go out and look for socks even though we haven't been wearing socks all year.
In our neighborhood, we saw gas stations doing the whole, price gouging? Is that what they call it? Yeah, I mean, your father saw one that had gas for $4.99 a gallon. He went ahead and reported that. Now, they eventually, I think the next stage, it bring the price down to $3.69, and he ended up being able to get gas. But normally, he pays about $45 to fill up his Jag. I think he paid close to $70 to fill up the Jag. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's just outrageous. I mean, America is the land of the free and the home of whoever can get to the goods first.
And whoever has enough money to get them. So there you go. So now what else is happening in the news?
Well, Bill and Melinda Gates are getting a divorce.
Yep, we all heard.
Well, actually, the divorce proceedings started in 2019 due to Bill Gates' association with Jeffrey Epstein, the financier, socialite, and convicted sex offender.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they actually had all kinds of bad stuff going on in their marriage.
You told me.
I read that Bill Gates was very close to one of his ex-girlfriends, and that the two of them still go on trips together every year.
Okay, that's completely dysfunctional.
It is.
See, the problem is that Melinda Gates did not take care of business from the very beginning of the marriage. Now, the first time Bill said, "Hey, baby, I'm going on vacation with my ex-girlfriend. Do you mind?" She should have shut it down then. If she had blown up something, I'm telling you, that gets them every time. A car, house, a Microsoft Office. He would have had second thoughts. Things might be looking different. I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah, I mean, some of these rich, powerful men, they just think that they are Arabian sultans. They think that they can have just all the women, wives, and concubines, and that monogamy doesn't apply to them.
Well, it doesn't work that way in America. You can do that freaky stuff if you want to, but you're going to pay, especially if you're Bill Gates. So we're going to take a little break, but don't go away. We will be right back. Well, we're back, and this segment features something we call Around the Town. This is where we take you to some of the spaces and places around Metro Atlanta. We share some of the local culture via video clips and or still photos. This week's Around the Town takes us to Denver, Colorado.
Yes, my parents visited Denver, Colorado on a business trip a couple of years ago, and while they were there, they spent time touring and sightseeing in the city.
Yeah, Denver is a beautiful city. It's full of the historic but the new as well. We really enjoyed our time there, so take a look. In 2019, I accompanied my husband on a business trip to Denver, Colorado. One of the first things we saw during the Uber ride to our hotel was Coors Field, the home field of the Colorado Rockies, the city's Major League Baseball franchise. After a short ride, we arrived at the Hilton, one of the city's largest hotels located in the heart of downtown. After checking in, we spent time relaxing in our lovely room and enjoying the magnificent views of the city below. While my husband attended meetings, I spent time touring the city, and the first stop took me to Trinity United Methodist Church. Trinity United Methodist Church is an historic church building located at the corner of East 18th Avenue and Broadway in Denver. It was built in 1887 and was added to the National Register in 1970. Once inside, I made my way to the main sanctuary where I saw a magnificent pipe organ and other sacred structures. When his meetings were over, Andrew and I toured the city together and took a free bus ride along the 16th Street Mall. By the way, if you love Starbucks, you'll love Denver. There are several of them in the downtown area. We made our way over to Union Station, an urban transit hub and a high-energy mixed-use destination featuring award-winning restaurants, local retail shops, and the luxurious Crawford Hotel. From there, we traveled to the Civic Center Park, the centerpiece of Denver's green space. The park, with its Greek amphitheater, statues, and fountains, is a popular event site for summer tourists and Denver locals. Denver is a city with a wonderful mix of the old and the new, and we thoroughly enjoyed our visit. We're going to take another little break, but we will be right back, so don't go away. Well, we're back, and in this segment, we are going to talk about kids in the kitchen, cooking for kids, and how to teach them to make their way around the kitchen with food. But before we do that, our resident obscure Did You Know girl is going to share with us some fun facts, some fun obscure facts in our segment called Did You Know? So Adriana, hit us with some fun Did You Know food facts.
Okay, so did you know that American cheese is not actually American?
Okay.
The cheese that we know as American cheese was actually invented in Switzerland.
Okay, wow, you're kidding. So shouldn't that be considered false advertising to call American cheese that's not really American cheese? Shouldn't it just be called Switzerland cheese?
Well, that doesn't sound very good.
Well, I'm just saying it's kind of like the whole ginger ale thing. We've talked about that, where they call ginger ale soda ginger ale, but you look on the label and there's like less than 1% of ginger in the ginger ale, so it's not really ginger ale at all. This whole thing is just like a trigger for me. Okay, so let's just move on. Give me another Did You Know fact.
Okay, so did you know that French fries are not actually French?
Here we go again.
French fries were actually invented in Belgium, but they're called French fries because the long, thin shape that the potatoes are cut into is called a French cut.
Okay, so this is making me question everything that I never thought was real. I mean, really. I mean, you think about measles. They call them German measles. Were measles German? We talk about green peas. Are peas really green?
Some of them are yellow.
There we go again. What about Snow White? Was she even white?
Well, let's not go there.
I'm just saying, all right? Give me one more. And this time, don't say anything that's going to rock my walls.
Okay, so did you know that lima beans are potentially deadly?
Okay.
Raw lima beans have lethal amounts of cyanide in them, but if you cook them properly, they're perfectly safe to eat.
Oh my God. First of all, nobody likes lima beans, so there's no danger of dying from lima bean poisoning. But you never know. Just to be on the safe side, here at this show, we like to cover all of our bases, so we're going to go ahead and officially post our disclaimer. Here we go. As a disclaimer, this program does not in any way endorse the eating of raw lima beans or using the cyanide in them to commit lima bean murder. So, you heard it here.
As we have stated before previously, we do not have enough liability insurance to cover bad behavior from our viewers. So if you eat raw lima beans or if you try to take out your enemies by feeding them a raw lima bean smoothie, be prepared to pay for your own medical, legal, and funeral expenses.
Exactly. So now that Adriana has shared these obscure facts with us, let's get to the main part of our topic, which is today called Kids in the Kitchen. Now, Adriana has always loved to cook since she was a little girl. She would be right beside me as I cooked in the kitchen, and she loved watching all of the Saturday shows, Martha Stewart, even old episodes of, what's her name?
Oh, Judah Child.
Yeah, Judah Child. And just, just all kinds of cooking shows on PBS. So she wanted to talk about, and I thought this was a great idea, of how to get your kids cooking in the kitchen. So share with us some things.
Well, there are lots of great things you can do to teach your kids to cook. One thing that you can do is have your younger kids help you prep by doing things like tearing up and rinsing lettuce or peeling potatoes with the potato peeler like this.
Yes.
Or even measuring things like flour or sugar.
Flour, lots of that.
Measuring is also a great way for them to reinforce their math skills and use the stuff they learn in school in real life.
That's exactly right. Now, those are really, really good tips. I think we need to do more of real life skill type things. So I love those tips. What are some other things that parents can do to get their kids cooking in the kitchen?
Well, another thing that you can do is to get your kids involved with the meal planning and shopping process. When you have your kids help shop for ingredients, that makes them more invested in the meal, so they're more likely to eat their food. So it's a great way to deal with picky eating.
Oh, yeah. And I always took you guys shopping, your brothers and sisters, but then you do. I mean, you probably could shop for the family at this point. I mean, just as well as I could, and maybe that's one of the reasons why you were so invested in cooking, in the kitchen and in cooking. So now, as kids start to get older, let's talk about that a little bit. Little kids are one thing, but as they start to get older, they can start making more, foods of their own. Can you talk a little bit about some specific things that a little bit older kids can make in the kitchen?
So when you've got little older kids, like older school-age kids and preteens, they can start making easy recipes on their own. Things like salads, tacos, quesadillas, grilled cheese, without much assistance.
Right.
And if your kid really likes to cook and is looking for more of a challenge, things like lasagna and homemade pizza are also great recipes for them to make.
Oh yeah, pizza is great, and it's not that hard. I mean, you make pizza dough from scratch, and that may be a little bit more advanced, but actually it's not that hard to do any of those kinds of things.
No, it's very easy.
Right. So great. Now, I think we really need to make sure that we talk about the right cooking tools for kids and adults too, but right now we're focusing on kids. What are some basic kitchen tools that kids need to have access to? Now, you mentioned a few things already.
Measuring cups and measuring spoons are very important tools to have, just so you can accurately portion out ingredients. It's also great to have a small cutting board for your kids that's easy to handle. It's a great place for them to cut things and also assemble things. And you can we picked this up at Walmart for a few dollars, and the great thing about this is that it comes with a small knife as well.
And speaking about knives,
and it's a good idea to make sure that any knives that you use or let your kids handle are either new or freshly sharpened.
Wow.
Dull knives are actually very dangerous because you have to apply a lot of pressure on the food to get it to cut through, which means you're more likely to lose control of the knife.
Right. You would think that, I think people think a sharper knife is more dangerous, right?
Yeah, people think it's more dangerous, but as long as the child is being careful and has adult supervision, it's actually much safer to let them use a sharp knife.
Well, what about pot holders and things like that?
Oh yeah, pot holders are also very important to have to pick up hot items. I think it's better to have kids use pot holders because oven mitts are usually designed for adult-sized hands, so they may not really be able to have the dexterity that they need to pick up something.
Yeah, that's a very, very good thing. Now, this summer, you are planning on doing an online cooking class for kids. Can you tell folks a little bit more about that?
So yeah, June 7th through the 28th, I am teaching an online cooking class for kids ages 7 through 13. The classes are $40 per device for 4 weeks of classes. Each week the kids will get step-by-step instruction on how to make 2 different recipes, a dinner recipe and a dessert recipe.
Nice.
And they'll also get to learn about food and kitchen safety.
Wow, that sounds really fun. How can people sign up?
So if you want to sign up, click the Eventbrite link in the description below, and that'll lead you to the sign-up page.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we are going to take another little break. Don't go away, though. We'll be right back. So we're back, and this week the Elevate show features Lizbeth Dison, the publisher and editor of the Our Town Dekalb community paper here in Metro Atlanta in the Spotlight segment. During our conversation, Lizbeth shared about her journey, the journey she has taken to becoming the editor and the publisher of Our Town Dekalb, and we also talked about a lot of other things, and including how she uses her paper to elevate the lives of the people in the Metro Atlanta community. We had a great interview, so take a look. I guess I'll start with this. Can you share with my viewers the journey that led you to becoming the publisher of Our Town Dekalb?
Well, I have lived in Tucker, which is a small town in the Metro Atlanta area, for those of you that are listening outside of Metro Atlanta, since 1997. And our area of Northeast DeKalb County, which is Tucker, Smoke Rise, Embry Hills, and Northlake, was served by 2 local publications when I moved to the area. Quite frankly, I was disappointed in both of them. Neither one of them published a lot of local content. And I kept thinking, we should have a publication in Tucker that services the Tucker community, because there's lots of stuff going on. I knew that there was lots of stories and lots of things to tell that was going on in Tucker, and lots of news that would be interesting to other people in Tucker. So I mulled about this for probably 20 years while I lived here. And one day I got an issue and I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to start my own darn magazine.
So now let's switch gears for a minute. With so much of our news being accessed digitally, why does a news magazine like Our Town Dekalb matter?
Well, I think that there are lots of sources that you can get national, even Atlanta regional, international news. I mean, there's no lack of resources for that. But what do you do if you want to know what they're building down the street? In the shopping center. Where if Publix moves to the new shopping center, what's going to go into the big empty space in the old Publix area? I mean, there was no real resource to get local news, hyper local news, what
Sure,
was going
sure.
on here.
Yeah.
There was no venue for people to share their stories, their
Hmm.
inspirational stories for the
Hmm.
for the area.
Right.
Um, there are so many things going on in your local community
Yes.
that word of mouth just doesn't do it. And plus, you may have social media sites for your community. Like
Right.
Tucker has a wonderful one on Facebook, Tucker Town Talk,
Yeah.
but you can't publish like a whole article
Oh,
on a
no.
Facebook
No,
post, nor
no,
would
no.
people be reading it
Yeah.
on social
Yeah.
media.
Yeah.
You can touch on things, but
Right.
it's a great resource for
Yeah.
people to get like a fuller story.
So I love that you are filling a gap in the community, Elizabeth. I love that you're making a difference with good content and good news and just, good, truthful news about what's happening in Tucker and in DeKalb and surrounding areas. I love that. Now, when readers, when people pick up the magazine or when they go online to read it, what do you want them to come away with?
Inspiration. I mean, we
Yeah.
always try to pick a cover story
Hmm.
about a person or organization or event in Tucker
Hmm.
that is a feel good reading.
Right.
I made the conscientious, purposeful decision when I decided to launch magazine that we weren't going to cover hard news,
Right.
because it's a monthly publication, so there's a time issue.
Right.
Um,
That's true.
and I wanted people to be able to pick up the magazine and read something light but
Right.
engaging and
Hmm.
useful,
Hmm.
to know what events were going on, to know
Hmm.
what community efforts needed volunteers or needed help.
Hmm.
Um, it was really a magazine that I felt had a purpose in kind of giving inspiration to people and
Yeah. Yeah.
also entertainment.
How does this magazine encourage people to live their best lives? I mean, you've touched on that some. It's entertaining. I mean, you've got good stories that are inspirational and somewhat entertaining. But how else does it encourage people to live their best lives? Because I think it does. But I'm curious as to what you have to say about that.
Well, we hope that it provides inspiration again.
Yeah, definitely.
Because we're hoping that when you read like the cover story, like last month, our cover story
Mhm.
was on Well Root,
Okay.
which is what used to be the Methodist Children's Home, the
Oh
orphanage
yeah.
in
Yes.
Decatur. And
Yes.
now
Loved it.
they have evolved into an important part of the foster system. The cover story had a picture of 3 foster kids
Yes.
from the back
Oh,
walking
good.
into a place. I think it was a church they were walking into,
Okay.
because we couldn't picture their
Right.
faces, and we put them with anonymous names.
Sure.
3 days after that issue hit
Yes.
the stands,
Yeah.
we found out that they were siblings
Yeah.
and they had just been formally adopted
You
by
are
their foster
kidding.
family.
Oh my God.
So the following month, we did a
Yes.
wonderful follow-up story
Oh,
that
how?
showed the whole family from the
Yes.
front,
Yes.
and told a little about, the family, the Galligans that
Yes.
had entered into the foster care system
Uh-huh.
um, about 5 years ago and fostered a variety of one-offs.
Yes.
And then about a year and a half ago, they got a call from Wellroot that said, "We have 3 siblings. One of them is a newborn baby.
Oh my
Can
gosh.
you take them in?" And they were
Wow.
like, "Well, we're used to having like, one kid."
Right. Right.
but
That's a big
they
difference.
took the children, they fostered them for about a year and a half,
Uh-huh.
and then just a few months ago,
Oh my
finalized the
gosh.
adoption and went from a couple fostering to a family of 5.
Oh my goodness, Elizabeth, that it doesn't get too much more inspirational than that.
So
So,
that's the kind of stories that we
oh
like to
man.
publish.
But see, and this is why I wanted to have you on the show because it's that kind of stuff that elevates. Not only was this family elevated, those children elevated, but hearing that, I mean, I feel elevated by hearing you tell me that story. What has given you the most joy for as being a publisher of this magazine?
it's it's sourcing out the good stories.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I love writing, so
Yes.
it's an outlet for me, because I always do the cover stories usually.
Okay. Gotcha.
Um, but it's being able to find these stories
Yes.
and develop the story and publish it, and then have people read it and get
Yes.
joy out of it.
Yes. Yes.
Our June issue is going to be around Sean Underwood, who
Okay.
was the Tucker native who mushed in the Iditarod this year,
Oh
which is,
boy.
nobody knows what some people don't know what the Iditarod is.
Yes.
That is the 1,000-mile dog sled driven race.
Yes.
I think it's in March every
Yes.
year in
Yes.
Alaska.
Yes.
And we have a native, a Tucker native that not
How
only did last year's, but did this year's too.
that's
Um,
amazing that you found that story.
yeah, and it's an incredible story about
Yes.
how somebody that grew up in Tucker ended up in Alaska.
Yes.
And then, last month we also had a native son
Yes.
who is in the Merchant Marines, training in the Merchant Marines,
Yes.
and just circumnavigated the globe on his ship assignment.
Wow.
I mean,
These are
yeah.
incredible stories that you find. I love it.
Yeah, some of them I get from just knowing people that know
Sure.
people. Some of
Sure.
them I get from people submit stories. That one
Sure.
came from his parents, which were very
Yes.
proud of their son,
I'm
and
sure.
rightly so.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's to me the most joyful part
Yes.
of
Yes.
doing the magazine, is being able to put together a magazine full of interesting stories that are based here in the community.
I love it. I love it. Well, I tell you what, Lizbeth, I've known you for a while and you are a consummate professional. I love your work with Our Town Dekalb. And thank you for doing your part to elevate people's lives with your publication. It is a good word. And it's wonderful.
Well, as I encourage everybody, ourtowndekalb.com is our
Yes.
website. Go
Yes,
there.
we'll
You
make
can
sure we
read
put that
all
on
of the issues.
Yeah.
Follow us on social media.
Yes.
And if you've got a good story and you're located in the Tucker area, make sure you send it to us.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
We're going to take another short break, but we'll be right back, so don't go away. Well, we're back, but we're almost out of time. But before we go, the Elevate Show wants to invite you to be a guest on our show. And here's how you can do it. Have you done something that has improved your life or the life of someone else? It could be a family member, a friend, a neighbor. It could be a creative way that you've overcome a challenging situation. It could be that you kicked cancer or kicked smoking, or you've lost a bunch of weight. It could be starting that business that we talked about a few weeks ago. But something like that, anything like that, that has elevated your life or the life of someone else.
So to share your stories, go to our Elevate Show YouTube channel and subscribe, and then email your story and pictures to elevateytchannel@gmail.com. Also, become a friend of the Elevate Facebook page, and that will allow you to share your stories and photos with us there as well.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. Well, we want to thank you once again for spending time with us. We know you could be anywhere during this time. We're all busy, but we appreciate you spending time being with us, watching our show. Don't forget to share, subscribe, and like the Elevate Show. And if you live in DeKalb County, then you can catch our show on Sunday evenings at 7 p.m. on the Comcast 25 channel. So thank you for being with us, and have a great week, everybody.
See you next time.